Aloha artists, Miss Maggie here. This week we are going to continue on with our native animal portraits. Last week we painted the habitat, the background, everything behind our animals, the details that show us about the beautiful place that they are a part of. And this week we are going to paint the animals themselves, and it's going to be a wonderful opportunity to really make these artworks shine. Okay, so what are the supplies we are going to need? You are going to need your artwork from last time that has the background painted, but not the actual animal. Whatever animal you were working on, you're going to need your photo of your animal. And again, that photo can be digital, doesn't have to be printed. And you're going to need a scrap piece of paper. A small drawing paper is perfect. If you have the one from testing colors last week and you still have space on it, that's great. One way or another, this paper is for testing color. And well, we're going to paint. So we need our watercolors, a brush, water, and your paper towel. So what do we need? You need your artwork from last time with your native animal ready to paint, a photo of your animal, your watercolors, brush, water, napkin, and don't forget that scrap paper for testing colors. Okay, go get those supplies and meet me right back here. Before we jump into painting, let's do a deep dive into looking closely at the colors that are in the native animals that we are going to paint. Of course, you are painting a different native animal than I am, but look closely how I find the different colors and the different values in these animals. That way, after we test out a bunch of colors, we'll have already stopped and thought. We'll have stopped and thought about where these colors are going to go, what colors we are mixing, and also perhaps even what stroke we are going to use. That way, your final artwork will really express your native animal. It will express its characteristics, and it will also express its beauty as you put your heart, your skill, your focus into your artwork. Okay, well, let's get going on mixing some colors. So I have my two different examples that are very different. And if you look at an Elai-Ke'o-Ke'o, what are the colors that you see? I bet you see black, red eye, and white beak. Okay, I'll paint that in 2 seconds. Easy. Now, hold on a second. Look at how I painted this here. Did I use just black in those feathers? I used black, and I don't use black very often, but I used black in this one. But do you see that purple? Do you see that blue in there? And do you see where I painted with a lot more water? I have areas that are dark black and areas that are much lighter. Look at the photo again. Do you see those areas that are a black? Do you see those areas that are a medium gray and maybe even a little bit lighter? Do you see those areas where maybe it's not 100% black? You might mix another color in there. So if your animal has black feathers, for instance, we want to see if we can mix all those different colors. Now, what about my other animal, the dragonfly? Well, this one, I've got a red. Now, is that exactly the red I have in my paints? I don't think so exactly. And I bet even this one, if you look at that red versus that red, look at this eye here. The back of its eye. Is it all one red? How do we make it look round? It has different values in there, and it has slightly different shades. And of course, it also has some of a dark blackish color. Is it really black? What about in its tail? That looks like there's some different colors and values going on in there. And the wing,
Well, ooh, there's that little bit of reddish color there, and I can see through the wing actually. There's a lot to notice. And if you have any plant that your animal is on or in, you can look at all the greens in there too. So we are going to do some more practice painting, just trying out colors on here. So if I'm going to do the alai ke'o, I'm going to see how many of these colors I can mix. How do I start with that? Well, I start with taking a random spot with my finger and I go, well, what color is that? Well, I think it's not a black. I'm going to say it's a gray. Okay, so that spot I really think is a gray. So if I have some areas that are black, they'd be like this. If they're that gray, well, how much gray do I put in there? So maybe like that. Do I have anywhere that is a lighter gray? Find somewhere that's a lighter gray. And if yours is an Eevee and it's red, do this with red instead. And so what is the lightest gray in here, and do I need that? Now, after you've looked at value, are there anywhere in there where the colors need to be mixed a little bit? Where in here is it black plus something? Like I see, looks like black plus blue over there. So I've got some black plus blue. Like that? No, I think I need more blue in there, but maybe I'll use that one too. Like that. Ooh, that might be really nice. So I'll probably want both of those, and there's something in between. And I could see some areas where I use black plus blue lighter. And a spot like that, it's actually lighter, but I've got so much water in there that it did have a lot of pigments. So I spread it out. Ooh, I like those tones. Now, I see some areas where it's like black plus something a little warmer, like down here. I'm going to try black plus purple. Maybe you'd try black plus red or black plus brown. You could try out all of those just to experiment. There's black plus purple there. That just looks super black. But as I add water to it and try out different values, yeah, it's still very black, but it still looks different. And maybe I want one that has more purple in it too. So I'm trying things out. And if you want to make your animal look real, then there's probably this many different colors, even when they're super close together, that you can use. How about that beak? If you have a white area on your animal, is it completely white? Or are there some areas that seem to have a little bit of color? Like up at the top, it looks like there's a little bit of yellow orange in there, like maybe this color I mixed before. I'm going to test that out. And maybe it needs a little bit more orange in it. Whoops, I'm picking up some dirtiness on my palette, which is no good for when you're using super light colors. So a little orange, a little red, lots of water in there. Test it. Ooh, a little bit of that, especially mixed with a little bit more water, might be just what that area needs. So it looks like it has something going on there. So I tried that out for this bird. How about the dragonfly? Because this might be closer to your animal in some ways. How about if I was to see how many reds to come up with? So I bet there's definitely somewhere where I'm going to use that red, but like right there. But really, I think this is a very red-orange one. So there's red plus orange. Ooh, look how close that is. I love that. So that red-orange plus water for the lighter areas is definitely something I'm going to use. So that experimentation helped me find that yes, red plus orange, and as it gets lighter, I think I want more orange in it. Yeah, not too much orange in it, but some. So that's the sort of little experiments we're doing. Now, how about those shadowy areas? Is that enough? The red, just like that? Or does it need something else in it? What could I put in the red to darken it for the most shadowy parts of the red? I could put black in it, but black takes over. How about purple? Or you know what? I've got some of that purple black left over. Sometimes those leftover colors are perfect. Ooh, I like that. Red, purple, black. Ooh, that's a very dark one, but you know what? I like that for the tail. Red, purple-ish black. I could try straight red, purple. I'm going to try it with some of that orange I mixed before. Ooh, those are all great colors. And I'm going to want some bright greens. You know what? Red and green, those are complementary colors. So when they're next to each other, rather than mixing, but next to each other, they're just, boom, they look so good. So I'm going to see what sort of really bright greens I can make. Not greens that are fading into the background, greens that stand out in this case. How about that green? Pretty good. How about if I have more yellow in it so it's even more electric? Not quite. Maybe I need actually lighter. Not quite doing it. But what if I put that next to? That's just straight green. That's starting to look electric. And if I put that near a blue-green, ooh, those will start to look electric together. Your yellow might be more electric than my yellow. Ooh, when I use just the yellow though, I start to like that. So I'm just trying things out. The other thing you can try out is, if you're worried about some of those little details, being able to get them with the tip of your brush, practice. Like, I know that I'm going to have to do some careful painting, especially for that dragonfly. Well, we practiced what color. Let's practice what stroke. So if I'm going to do those damselfly legs, I need a red, orange. I don't want too much water, because if I have too much water, the water wants to flow everywhere. But I've mixed the color. My brush has a nice tip. I can roll it like this to help it have a nice tip. And then I'm going to hold my brush tall. And I can do little lines like that. But how about doing the dragonfly leg? It goes down, and it goes like this. It goes boop, 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 boop. Little hairs right there. I'm trying to see how skinny I can be. Let's try another dragonfly leg. I'm taking whatever I thought would be the hardest to do. And see, it wasn't even perfect for me. I got some spots that are off. But I can just let those be some more little hairs maybe. See, there's little hairs right there. A little bit there. Great. So I'm practicing those skinny lines so that when I need them, I can use them. So, good to practice with those colors that I made. I will have some skinny parts, and so I'm warming up, getting to know the brush that I'm using. How skinny a mark can I make?
So this paper is all for experiments. Everything that you think might be the most challenging in painting your native animal portrait. Try out those colors, try out those strokes, and when you think you've got it, one more time, just to be sure, before you start painting, stop and think, where are you going to start? I already started on this one, and I started with the head. What color? I did black, but I really did all of those black purples and blue purples that I tried out on here. And what stroke? I used the tip of my brush, especially around those edges that I had to be careful about. I haven't colored the eye red yet, and I'm keeping the beak as clean as possible, and I'm using those different values as I go. And I'm going to keep going now, and I see, as I look at this again, that I really love how I captured that blue-black there, but see that line there? Why do I have a line there? It needs to flow from one part to the next. So
I'm going to take some of this black purple and put it there, and I'm going to put more water and thin it out and thin it out so that it flows from one section to the next. And we'll see how well that does it to make it so that there isn't a line there. Instead, the colors just change a little bit at a time. Okay, what's next? I see that this area is very dark. I see that these areas are a little bit lighter.
And so now I get to use all those colors that I practiced mixing and all I learned about using more paint and less water for those dark colors and to have different colors mixed into them, and to other areas to have a lot more water in there mixed in so I have lighter values. Overall, my bird is going to have a lot more paint on it than the background did, where I wanted my colors to be soft and distant. Now I'm going for bold, but even in that, there are lighter and darker areas.
And you'll see your animal differently than how I see it. You'll have your own vision, but I hope you're inspired to look again and again and notice those little details that make this animal amazing. That's the whole point of a portrait. We want to know what makes this animal unique and special.
And so notice those small shifts in colors, those textures that you can express with your brush stroke. Put in those details that make your animal beautiful and unique.
And the beak. I practiced seeing how light a color I could make. And when I look at it, there's parts of it that look like it is just white, but there are parts that have a little bit of tone to it. I'm actually going to paint water on that beak. This is one thing you can do if you have a very white, but not perfectly white area. I'm going to take that, and I see up here is sort of a peachy cream color. I'm going to take orange and red and put water in it, test it. How light is it? Very light. And drop it in. And that water that's already on there is going to help it. And I see there's a little bit more of it down here. And oh, I never gave it a nostril. Well, I've got too much water there to paint it on. I might Sharpie it later. I can't believe I missed that detail. That's why you always need to look again. But the beak also has some shadows on it, some areas that are sort of grayish. So taking a little bit of my blue-black, lots of water, and drop that in. So this way, it's white-ish. And if it's too much color on there, napkin down, soak it all up. See how I'm just pressing down once, pick it up, one more time. There we go. And I think one time down in the lower part, got enough on there. What's missing? The eyeball. The eye needs some red. Yes, a nice deep red, but still that little reflection there. So, careful brush for those special important details. Use just the tip. Don't rush. Don't be distracted. Just do it ever so carefully. So, that's how I did my Alaikeo. How about my dragonfly? Let's see if there's anything I can do on this wood that will be useful to you on your painting. So I remember I mixed a lot of red oranges, and those I'm gonna have to paint ever so carefully because that is some small brush work areas, and I'm not using the tiniest brush I own, but it has a good point, and so that's the point of this. Okay, I've got that red orange there. Ooh, that's a lot of paint on my brush. It's gonna be hard to spread around safely, so I'm gonna wipe some of it off. You can do it on a napkin, and I'm gonna take that little bit of paint and move it around more carefully. See there now, I have a really bold color, but it's not too drippy, and I'm looking closely. Where is that darkest red orange? Where am I going to put that in? And yes, some areas are going to end up being lighter, and some areas are going to be darker. But this is such a main color that I'm getting it in there. Oh yes, that's looking good. Up there on that part. And I think I am going to make a red-orange that has some shadow color to it. Take a little bit of my gray, blue, blacks from before, get some of that red in there. And if you're doing little details, you don't want your brush too wet. Wet enough that the paint moves, but no drips. So I'm making sure I have lots of paint, not too much water.
And I'm going to use the careful tip of my paintbrush to put in those colors. Once you really start to notice the little shifts in color and detail that make something so unique, then the next trick is to really get control of how much paint you put on your brush. And I know that takes some time. Sometimes you have too much water and everything drips everywhere. Sometimes the brush is too dry. And so find the right balance for your animal. If you have little tiny areas to paint like me, then only use a little bit of water and make those colors bold. If you have a larger area, then use the side of your brush. But still, remember, if it's close up, make it bold.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's exciting. Now what about the wing? Well, there's that red-purple spot over there that seems very, very important. I've got that. And then the wing, other than that, it's transparent. And so I think there's not much I can do but paint everything else and let it shine through. I did that a little bit with some of that blue, but I think it's time to do those leaves. And the leaves that are the closest are going to be the boldest, and the other ones, they're kind of in the middle ground. They're not right up front, but they were close enough that I didn't paint them when I did everything else. So I did some thinking about different types of green here. I'm going to do as many types of bright greens and dark greens and in between on those. If you have any green in your foreground, think about it in that way too. We did soft greens in the background. Let's contrast it with the boldest greens possible. I need some space for mixing. And look at that leaf there. Ooh, what beautiful light greens. Lots of yellow. I'm actually going to paint the leaf straight yellow first. I'm going to do some mixing on the paper because I want this to really stand out, and that yellow, I think in this case, can help. You notice how for the colors in the background, I used lots of water. And now I'm using less water. I just used a bit of water with that. And if your brush is too dry to get a clear mark, then yeah, you need some more water on your brush. But with that being a wet but bold yellow, I'm now going to take that green and I'm going to look on here. Well, where does it have the most green? Not on the edge, but kind of in this area. So I stopped and thought, where am I going to paint that leaf? What color? The yellow, and then add the green. The yellow was wet, and then the green is dropping in. And what stroke? Well, I filled it in carefully and with a decent amount of water, but lots of paint. And now I'm doing the green with water, and my brush is on its side so that it can really drop it in, fill it in. Ooh, you know what I missed? Back leg. Going back to that real fast. There we go. Connecting to the leaf. Now, I think that's pretty bold, but I think it needs a little bit more. I'm going to do some blue-green. And now I don't have much water on there. And I'm going to put some of that in the center is my decision. Look at that contrast. Look at what's happening there. I think it needs a little bit along the edges there. I'm going to leave a lot of it with the yellow too, so that it'll stand out.
So why does that make it stand out so much? Well, I am making my colors really saturated in the foreground. In other words, I am using a lot of paint and just a little bit of water, and so that makes the colors bold. And then I am also making a yellow-green and a blue-green, and so I'm getting contrast between my different greens, and then I am also getting contrast from my bold colors in the foreground from my soft colors in the background, because when we painted our habitat background, we didn't use saturated colors, we mixed lots of water in. And so that's why I said to mix lots of water in your background so that your foreground can be saturated and bold and bright and really call our eye there. Isn't that beautiful?
I think it's there. Wonderful. So, look at your artwork and see. What do you notice? What catches your eye? What parts are similar to your photo? What parts are different? If there are parts that are different, and every artist has their own way of creating their art, so there are things that will be different. But does it still express the characteristics of your native animal and its habitat? That is the job of this portrait of a native animal, to express what makes this animal special and unique, and to express its habitat. So, look at it and think, what else? What if?
And so here is your reflection question. Take a look at your painting and your photo of your painting. Compare them. What's similar? What's different? And notice what detail that you drew and painted best expresses a characteristic of your animal. What did you put into your artwork that is really important to identifying, to knowing what is unique about the animal that you chose? And then the second part of this question is this: what detail do you notice that you could improve upon? Maybe it's something you can change now. Maybe it's something that you remember on your project with Mrs. Rankin. And so, what detail did you draw and paint that best expresses a characteristic of your animal? And what detail can you improve to better express the characteristics of your animal? I can't wait to see how these have turned out. I know you're working hard on them. Next week, we are going to draw and paint a native plant from this habitat. So check out the different native plants that are from your animal's habitat and pick one and find a quality photo of it. Make sure that your paints are put away. Keep this artwork somewhere safe, and I will see you next time. Ahui ho!